Entering the Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2022 The Memorial Tournament. DraftKings picks and preview. Play in the Listeners League. The link is down in the description. Let's fill that as quickly as possible. Smash a like to the episode. Sub to Mayo Media Network. Leave your favorite 6K play down in the description. And, of course, sub to the newsletter. That's where all the final plays are going to be. I'll be live with Tyler Tambolini, noon Eastern time on Wednesday to finalize everything. The DraftKings plays, the fades, the pivot plays, all of the bets, all your questions. You have to be subbed to the channel to get your question in, though. Joining me from DKNation.com, amongst other places, his return to the show after a lengthy absence. Why was he off the show? I don't know. I can't quite remember. But it's an American holiday, so phone a Canadian day. Jeff Ulrich, what's up?
I knew there was a reason you had me back, because everyone else was busy.
I didn't even attempt to ask anyone else.
That's fine. It's fine. You know what? There's so many good, like in all honesty, like there's so many good golf content writers and stuff out there now. And
impossible. Impossible. I don't believe that for a second.
Well, no, there is. I mean, I know it's impossible. But I'm going to inform you then, and there is, and you need to give them airtime and stuff. I mean, it's important.
Are you mad that Kirsch took one of your spots?
Absolutely, that guy, yes, and especially him. You know, he's trying to rein in on my Louis Oosthuizen fan base. Like, give me a break, pal. I mean, just find your own golfer.
Yeah, but you have so much money to be won on the Live Tour now. He can win over there.
Oh, I'm legit excited for him to start on the Live Tour, and I'm not kidding about that. I absolutely think he's probably going to just clean up. Louis got a huge farm to pay for. He's got 3 daughters. It's expensive, man. He is chomping at the bit to get some Live Golf Tour money. I'm excited.
Well, let's see if he ends up in the U.S. Open. I'm pretty sure that he's going to. Wasn't the Live field supposed to drop 2, 3, 4 days ago, and we just nothing has been heard?
Like a week ago, it was supposed to. So I assume, since we're on the subject, they're probably maybe waiting for some people to maybe make some decisions. That's kind of what I feel like. Maybe is maybe name or two is on the fence. I don't know. Maybe Louis is on the fence.
I mean, Louis needs to pay for a fence, and like I said, I think he can win over there. He's not winning over here,
and he doesn't have UPS to pay the bills anymore. Him and Westwood got dropped, so I think the writing's on the wall for Louis. I mean, that he's gone. Westwood's gone, but I don't know. I don't know why they haven't dropped the field yet. There must be some magic thing they're waiting for. Either that, or it's just such a shit show that that's probably the real answer. That they're just so unorganized that they're not ready to do it. So
the only thing I can think of what they're waiting for is, I know the NCAA tournament is concluding the championship right now as we're talking, maybe into Tuesday as well, that maybe they're waiting for those guys to finish and be like, hey, the NCAA champion's on here. For whoever wins, or even the guy who comes 8th in the NCAA championship this year, it's probably better off going to the Live Tour if you want to make some quick cash.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a good way to give the old double bird to the PGA Tour, because those guys are usually, they go into they get some sponsors exemptions into the PGA events later in the summer. And then, that's how we get the new Matthew Wolfs and stuff like that. Well, maybe not Matthew Wolf. Colin Morikawa is probably a better example, right? So yeah, that would be that actually could be a real thing there. Definitely would not be shocked to see Norman going after one or two of those guys. So
he could probably have Big Norm, Big Panda. That guy could probably play on the Live Tour. He's on the Mackenzie Tour right now.
I don't know. I feel like Norm even has to go through qualifying for Live at this point. I mean, I remember the Big Panda days. I actually never really played him, but other people did. I lose my money with other people, not with Norm.
Well, let's try to find some guys to lose money on this week. The Memorial is over 7,400 yards, par 72. 7 of some of the toughest par 4s that you're going to find. Tread some water on those. Tread some water on the long par 3s. Try to make it up on the one easy par 4 and the par 5s. That's the strategy of this tournament. We'll see if anyone can actually pull it off. Patrick Cantlay is the asterisk defending champion of this tournament, as Jon Rahm was running away with it as we went through. The biggest thing to focus on right now, we can talk about skill sets for players, but there's only 120 players in this field, it being an invitational. Top 65 and ties are going to make the cut, which means at least 54% of all players will play the weekend. I say at least because, 8 guys all of a sudden tie for T65. Now it's up to like 60, 61%. Do you have a particular strategy for weeks like this? Like, is it like, as we saw a week ago, is the same at Colonial, 120 players, same cut rules, and Stars and Scrubs would have really paid off last week.
Yeah, it did. Or it would have. And, if you went that route, and I do think it is usually generally the correct strategy for these events. And this week, though, that's really going to get put to the test for people, I think, for a couple different reasons. Mainly because we just have like this group of young players in like the 8K range that everyone's going to want to play. And if you play like 3 of them, it's not really going to be Stars and Scrubs. I mean, I guess it could be like Stars and a Scrub or something like that. But, there's real opportunity. I think there's going to be actual pretty low ownership on some of these guys over 10K. So you're going to kind of almost have to like force yourself maybe to leave off some names that you're probably going to want to play. Obviously, we'll get to these names. I mean, I think they're pretty obvious at this point. Cam Young, Zalatoris, maybe not so much Zalatoris, he's 9-4, but like Davis Riley, those guys being in the 8K range, if you want to employ the Stars and Scrubs strategy and take advantage of the smaller field and the 6K range, you're going to have to, make some decisions, I guess.
Well, let's jump right into that. Let's talk about the obvious names of the week, who the early week chalk is going to be. Again, Tambo and I will hammer on what is going to be the overall chalk, at least our best guesses of that, come Wednesday once it matures a little bit. You mentioned Cam Young. I'm going to throw Shane Lowry onto that list as well, just mainly because he's not as expensive at all as I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be like $9,700. Not the case, and even $9,000. So you're going to have a chance, and maybe this is the correct strategy, because you said, Stars and Scrubs makes a lot of sense with a field like this, top 65 and ties, but a balanced build for a field like Memorial, and when Feinberg and I talked through it, like, you have seen long shot winners in the past, but generally when you look at this leaderboard, it's just chock full of good players. Like, of the top like 30 players in the field, that's generally who's inside the top 30. Pick and choose a few of the guys who run a hot putter or whatever might occur. But who do you think are going to be the obvious plays? You said Riley, probably not Zalatoris, so Lowry, Cam Young for sure. Who else would you throw into that mix?
Yeah, so I think Mito at 8K is very much like Shane Lowry at 9K. Like, at this point, it's just a little bit too cheap for old Mito to be at 8K. I mean, he's just playing too good. I think some people may actually stay off Davis Riley because he's priced up. Like, he's $600 more expensive than Mito at 8,600, and he doesn't have that course experience. And plus, everybody just saw him blow up on national TV on Sunday, so they got the instant, well, this guy can't bounce back, and he can't keep the ball in the fairway, so I don't want to play him at 8,600, but I'll take the discount on Mito. So I think Shane Lowry, absolutely. It's the first name I picked out. I'm like, wow, Shane Lowry's 9K. There's your chalk for the week. I think that, but there's other players that are mispriced. Like, you mentioned like the 9K range. Like, Victor Hovland's only 9,300. That's really cheap when you've got Xander to bounce off of over 10K. And then Jordan Spieth at 9,700 feels really mispriced to me too. So I think up top, again, this just all leads us to like more balanced lineup construction, which is why I'm going to be pretty tempted to, create with like 2 guys over 10K, because I don't think anyone's going to be doing it. There's just too many players like Spieth, Lowry, Hovland, and Mito. It was just underpriced, and people are going to try and jam in and they should. I mean, some of these guys are good, especially Spieth, I think. But I think that the double 10K start this week is going to have really, really low ownership on it.
I'm going to throw Chris Kirk into that mix too, because he perfectly fills out the back end of that balanced build at $7,700. And do you think there'll be a groundswell for Patrick Reed at $79 now that he's like good again?
Yeah, I do. I think that Kirk, Reed, and you could even throw Kuchar's name in there a little bit. They'll probably all in a way balance off each other, but I think that Kirk eventually will kind of be like the chalkiest of the bunch. Again, like, people are getting a little bit sharper about this, and even the people who just kind of play casually will just see, oh, Chris Kirk, 5th in the PGA. He's making a ton of cuts. This guy told me that he's gained strokes on approach in like 13 straight starts, which he has. And he's got great course history. So you don't even really need to dive too deep into Chris Kirk just to see that, he's playing well. He's priced very, very fairly, too fairly, quite frankly. And, he's probably going to like grind out at least a made cut for us at 7,700. I think Patrick Reed is still a good play. And, you know, I mean, the ball striking's coming up. Obviously, he's got the great course history. He's got better pedigree than Kirk. So maybe in like the higher price tournaments, I think you could see Reed maybe like overcome or just be higher owned than Kirk in like the bigger dollar events. Whereas like in the you know, the $20, the $5 entries, I think Kirk might kind of switch places with Reed there. So that's kind of how I'm looking at those two. And I mean, it makes sense. Like, I think Reed still is the better player between them, probably just slightly better upside for GPPs. Oh, again, like Chris Kirk just feels like a guy who's kind of ready to just break through at some point.
So if we go and try to think about how to start 9K plus, how we're going to start our lineups this week, you mentioned the double 10K play. Probably easier to pull off with the stars and scrubs. Obviously, you have to get the scrubs right when it comes down to this. But if you do that, and this is something that Tambo has, you know, really kind of enlightened me to, is that it doesn't matter how chalky the two 10K guys are going to be independently. Just so very few people are going to play them together. And what that allows you to do, like I just threw in Rahm and Morikawa into a lineup as just a starter to see how that would go. The first and fourth most expensive players. You have $7,100 left for your final four. That basically takes you out of that chalk range that you were talking about of where all the popular plays are going to land. That gets rid of Mito, Reed, Kuchar, Kirk, Scott, is apparently going to be quite popular, at least early in the week. Aaron Wise, Alex Noren, they're all right there. And it kind of takes you out of the running for all of them. So if you don't have any of those guys in your lineup because you start 10K, all of a sudden, it doesn't really matter who you take the rest of the time. I think your lineup is going to be pretty unique versus the rest of the field, even if it's filled with chalky type guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like on a week, I mean, that rule definitely is set. I mean, even if John Rahm was projecting to be like 25% owned, which I'm pretty sure he's not going to be this week. Yeah, like you could still, it's still the, like, you know, what you're saying still makes a ton of sense because, you know, you're going to be pairing him with another 10K guy, which most people are not going to be doing. And then also when you're dipping down below 7K, I mean, we talk about it in terms of like, oh, you know, this 6K guy is going to be chalky, but even the chalky guys under 7K, do they ever really get up over 10%? Like it doesn't, it's pretty rare. So just in terms of the player pool you're going to be choosing from to round out your lineup, it's pretty much just going to take care of itself, which is really the nice thing about this build. You start off with the two 10K guys that you like, and then it's kind of like you can just pick whoever you want. And you don't really need to worry too much about ownership necessarily, unless, you know, you've got some real, I don't know, like you just really want a guy who's like 1% owned or something, but you don't really need to worry about it too much in terms of like overall ownership, at least in my opinion. And especially this week, because I don't think that any of the guys over 10K with all of the sort of undervalued plays under like in the 9K range and even in the 8K range, you know, maybe Rory gets up there a little bit and ends up as like a top 3 play by the end of the week or something. But I don't know. That's the only name I would really think is going to get up there.
We'll see how this matures during the week, but Xander seems to be the one who is sticking out above everyone else in terms of where people are going to start their lineups. Xander, Rory, Spieth. Those three. Everyone else, it's not like people aren't starting their lineups with those guys, but that's where the majority of people tend to be going at the moment, maybe even pairing two of those up. My two favorite plays from up here, I don't know what to, I'm going to use Rahm. 100% I'm going to use Rahm, but he's probably not going to be in my main lineup unless I can really enjoy what's going on at the bottom end. I think starting with Morikawa makes the most sense because it's me and I love Morikawa, and he has this like pretty good track record at Jack Nicklaus courses, I've heard. And this
decent.
Is a Jack
okay.
Nicklaus. Let's see. He's he won the workday at this course. That was pretty good. He lost like 3,000 strokes putting, but still made the cut at the next week at Memorial. He lost in a playoff at this tournament last year. They just play, hey, we're going to play concession, this weird Jack Nicklaus course that no one's ever played before. Oh, Colin Morikawa is going to win there too. So he projects to be the lowest owned at this moment, at least, of the top 5 guys above $10,000. So I like him. And the other one that I want to go with, and I'm curious to see where the ownership ends up coming in. But I think there are so many cases you can make against Cam Smith this week. Your guy, Cam Smith, that I think just the needle points to him. It's never really worked out for him at this course. 4 or 6 missed cuts, no finish better than T65, hasn't gained on putting in any of his past 2 starts, lost in 4 of his past 5. I know he just flips the putter and all of a sudden he's the best player in the world. And we've seen him do it too many times already this year that it should be fine. And I don't know where his ownership is going to get. But if you wanted to do one of those balanced lineups, I think you go like Cam Smith, Zalatoris, Lowry. That'd be my preferred 3. But the more you talk about like Hovland and Matsuyama, feels like they might be sliding under the radar. This 9K range is really interesting. I'm not going to play Spieth. I love Spieth, but he's played well at this tournament over the years, but he's never really competed for a victory at this tournament. So that's just an easy cross-off for me. And I just don't want to play Patrick Cantlay. I don't care that he's won 2 of the past 5 times at this course. I don't want to support him, so I'm not playing him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to support Patrick Cantlay either after, ruining my PGA Championship lineups. I hope that at some point he does break through for, a major championship win. But
no, I hope he doesn't.
Well, okay, fair. I just wish it had happened when I'd been on him. But Cantlay definitely could be like the pure ownership play of this group.
Yeah, but
I
think he'll be higher owned than Morikawa is going to be.
Okay, actually, that's a good point. I should have started with this. I like the Morikawa play a lot because that is where I want to go as well. I don't really want to play Cantlay either, even though I'm just trying to stick up for him just for show's sake. But I agree. I think Morikawa is a good starting point. I think that regardless of who else you kind of decide to go with over 10K, and I really just I think that Rory will be like the chalkiest of the group over 10K. And then it's just kind of going to be like Xander probably will be up there with them, but the rest of the guys like Rahm, Cantlay, Morikawa, and let's just throw Smith in there because he's above Spieth. Let's just throw everyone above Spieth in there. Like I kind of like the Morikawa Smith pairing as well. Not only does it save you a little bit of money, but Cam Smith he can't get that chalky this week because he's more expensive than Spieth and Zalatoris. And he's also got this like course history that, like you said, it just, people just say, well, I can't Ross. He's never finished top 10 here. How's he ever going to win this event? I don't really care about that. I mean, Cam Smith seems like a different player this year. And also I think you look to like Smith's success at like a place like Augusta National. If he can have success there, he can certainly have success at Muirfield Village. So I know they're not completely similar courses. The rough is usually more up in Memorial and stuff like that, but I'd definitely be down with using Cam Smith this week. I think that when it comes down to it, Spieth will get more ownership. And I kind of agree with you on Spieth this week. The thing that worries me a little bit about him, it's just that this is like I think it's his 4th or 5th week playing. It's his 4th week playing in a row. He looked a little bit less sharp last week. He was really just gaining strokes around the green. Are we finally just going to see like the approaches go down and then, maybe this is the week he gains 8 strokes putting and like loses strokes on approach. Maybe that could happen too, but I kind of agree. Like I don't mind fading him this week. And I think Cam Smith is going to be a good pivot.
I hope so. And just Morikawa and Smith shape up to whatever their projected ownership is going to be. It feels like it's going to come in less than that. Because like I mentioned, if everything shakes out how it is right now, obviously that can change. That Cantlay is going to be relatively popular, not super highly owned, but he'll be very popular. Xander is just projecting off the charts. Everyone wants to use Xander. Everyone wants to use Spieth. The 2 guys in between those 3 guys are Morikawa and Smith. So if everyone's gravitating towards 3 guys in particular, the 2 guys in between them just can't be owned. It can't work like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Morikawa is a good starting point for a couple of reasons, because if you do like Rory, and Rory is the guy who scares me this week, like if you're fading him, I mean, I'll probably create a lineup with Rory and Morikawa just because, again, that gives me exposure to, even if Rory ends up as like a top 3 owned play, well, I'm still pairing him with Morikawa, which a lot of people are not going to do. Most people just aren't going to do. So that just comes back to our initial discussion of, we like Rory. Rory looks close. This would be a great bounce back spot for him, a great place just where he can grab a win, because most of the top players here would love to say they've won this event at some point in their career. And Rory's been close here at times. He's definitely coming in with some of the best form he's ever had in his life. So I think a win here too, a little bit bigger than say winning like the Wells Fargo for him. So Rory is a guy that, he's the guy I'm most scared to fade. And because of that, I'll definitely like create a lineup with him and probably with Morikawa in it. Again, Morikawa being the guy I most like to pair with. Simple fact that I think that, like you mentioned, the history here, but also just I think they'll be the one perhaps with the lowest ownership above Spieth.
And what we've seen in the past, the short game might get him into some problems. The sand might get him into some problems. But as was the case at Southern Hill, the best way to get rid of a bad short game is just hit a bunch of greens in regulation. And Morikawa is still doing that. The iron play isn't peak level Morikawa gaining 10 strokes per week that we saw, but that was like Tiger 2000 numbers. No one's going to sustain that. But it's still like 6 per week, 4.5 per week. That's good enough as long as he's driving the ball and actually has a decent putting week. So we need the decent putting week, but that pops up every now and again. So I'm good with that. What I'm really confused with is between this like Spieth and Dan Berger, like he's my pal, Daniel Hauserberger. So between 97 and 8,500 bucks, you could sell me on any one of those guys. That's going to be the real issue here. Is this a pure ownership play? Like Sung Jae, I'm guessing is going to be the lowest. I like Sung Jae enough at 8,900 bucks. I think Lowry's going to play well at 9,000. Is there a chance that Lowry gets not necessarily under-owned, but not nearly as owned as we think? Because Homa, Young are right there at 88 and 87. And what's a really easy build that you can do is, let's say you like Xander. Xander's 10-2. You throw Xander into your lineup. And then you immediately drop to Cam Young and Max Homa. You still have $7,400 left. It's a pretty easy build from there because you can still throw Kirk into that lineup. You can still throw Mito into that lineup if you wanted to. Or even Kuchar, save some money. And you have $6,800. They're like an obvious $6,800 guy. People will go to Streelman. Dude hasn't missed a cut in 7 years at this event. That one makes a lot of sense. Adam Long's playing a little bit better. Pat Perez is playing better, and Fantasy National is showing Brendan Steele popping off the charts. I think that's exclusive to Fantasy National, but because I really like Brendan Steele this week too, but he becomes a very logical guy with the rest of that build. Or you just punt one of these guys, go to the low sevens, and say, hey, I got CT Pan and Cam Davis. That works. That actually leaves $200 on the table.
Yeah, I mean, like again, if everything you heard, this is the other way you can create lineups this week, right? Where you basically just bypass the 10K route and you just go heavy on this, like I don't even know what you'd call it, like surging up and coming like little group. And like you mentioned the ownership on Lowry. Yeah, I mean, like Fitzpatrick is right above him. He's gonna soak up some ownership. I really, really like Sanjay this week. I hope he is the lowest owned of this group. He will probably get some ownership too, though, because he played well last week. I don't think it'll get crazy because like Cam Smith, he too has like really poor course history at this track. And he's got Cam Young, Homa, Riley, and Berger under him. So I think that if you're going to create lineups here, using Sanjay makes a ton of sense. He's kind of like the Morikawa, the 10K range. You can pair him with a couple other guys here, and it kind of just takes care of the ownership for you. So this is the other way you can go about doing it. And I think this will probably be the more popular way. People will maybe start with a Spieth or a Hovland, dip down, take a couple of like, you know, like a Homa and Riley combo, or I think Cam Young is going to be extremely popular when it comes down to it. I mean, and for good reason. I mean, he's finished third or better in 3 straight starts, and he absolutely just mashes off the tee, mashes pretty much everywhere. And he's actually a pretty good putter. So Cam Young will be really popular. And if you want to play him and you want to create lineups here, I think using Sanjay makes a ton of sense with those guys. I really like Sanjay's chances this week, to be honest. The around the green game for Sanjay is popping right now. He's been really consistent with that. And he's just not getting as much attention because he missed the PGA championship. But you know, we've seen, you know, one thing at Muirfield Village, like you do have to scramble here. You will miss greens. Everybody misses greens. These are really hard to hit. They're awkwardly shaped. They, they obviously run fast and firm. So, you need someone with a little bit of panache around the greens. And right now, Sanjay is kind of showing that all around game that he had when he won at the Honda Classic, which is another Jack Nicklaus design, by the way. So,
do you think people are sick of Zalatoris at this point? Because I'm probably betting Zalatoris to win because I'm a sucker and I do that every week. But it's like 1, 2, 3. This will be the 4th week in a row for him at this point. Maybe 5th. When was the Zurich? Was there anything in between Zurich and Byron Nelson? I feel like there was.
Oh.
Maybe not. Either way, he played in that too. So it's like at least 5 of the past 6 weeks he's played, including this will be the 4th week in a row. He should be good here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You should be good here. I mean, again, the only thing you worry about Zalatoris is, if he starts to miss just like an extra green or two, that's obviously playing into the weakness of his game. Yeah, my takes on Will Zalatoris are just like, I don't want to say it. Like, I don't pretend he exists. Obviously, like for DFS, like playing him at 9,400 is fine, but I don't really think he's a must play this week. Like, You look at Homa down there at Cam Young. I mean, these guys are like, Cam Young might be a better player than Zalatoris. So I think for DFS,
How dare you?
I don't really think that you need to play Will Zalatoris at all at 9,400. And if you are on him and if you are kind of pot committed, absolutely take out a bet on him. Like, I think that is the proper way to play it. But I look at 9,400, if he's going to be up there, you know, trending in terms of ownership, and I'm sure he will be.
I don't think that he is going to be. I think you're going to see Homa and Young just so, like really grab so much of that ownership.
This could be the week where it all kind of flips a little bit, and like, actually, it's not. I shouldn't say it could be the week. It is going to be the week where it flips. Like, Cam Young is going to be more highly owned than Will Zalatoris. That is definitely clear. So maybe this is like the week to load up on Zalatoris. I still don't think he's like a must play or anything, but yeah, when we're talking like tournament lineup construction, you know, strategy, you could certainly start with Zalatoris, or you don't necessarily have to start with him, but use him in a lineup with one of those guys. So I think that maybe the question is going to be like Zalatoris or Hovland. Right now, I'm seeing like far more ownership for Hovland personally than Zalatoris. So, you know, if you're thinking about starting kind of with like a balanced approach, Zalatoris is probably the guy that you're going to get better leverage on if you go overweight on in like the bigger GPPs. And then you can go from there. And so there's a couple different ways to play him. Again, you know, from like a price perspective, I think he's slightly overpriced this week, but just because of where like Young is and even like Lowry is, but you know, you can use that to your advantage too and get lower ownership on him in your more balanced lineups. So
I would wager that the two lowest owned players of the 9Ks are going to be some mix of Smith, Hovland, and Zalatoris. One of those three guys, probably all three of those guys, will be in the bottom three of overall ownership. Like Hideki will have more, Fitzpatrick will have more, Lowry will have more.
I think Hovland will get popular. Personally, that's the one
Really?
I disagree on. I think he could even push for like top 5 ownership, but it's the start of the week and we'll see.
Now, do you worry everything you just said about Zalatoris? If he misses an extra green or two, he's in a lot of trouble. I actually don't worry about Zalatoris around the greens. He's been pretty good around the greens. The guy you were talking about, you know, that's everyone's main concern. What happens if he doesn't hit 80% of his greens in regulation? He could be absolutely, well, not in a great spot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Hovland's interesting. I mean, it seems like he's not that far off. Like he's kind of playing like not that great either. Like just from what we're used to seeing from Victor Hovland. So he's doing he's still mashing off the tee. The approaches though aren't like laser like, but he's not necessarily like being terrible with it either. The putting as we have up, like it's not been terrible either, but the short game is still kind of holding him back too. So it's kind of a weird spot for Hovland because I could see it going either way right now. Like I could see him just kind of mucking about and maybe just like putting in another slow effort. But I do think like with the, you know, just with the pedigree that he has, like this isn't going to last too much longer where, you know, maybe he's just trying to figure some stuff out. So I don't really have a hot take on him right now. I want to see where the ownership lands on Hovland. If I'm right and he's like becomes one of the top 3 players of the week, I think that I'd find fading him. But if you're right and he's like in the bottom 3 of this range, I don't mind taking a shot with him. I mean, it's the dude who lost in a playoff here. Obviously, we know like when he gets going, I mean, obviously he's just not going to miss much anyways. And I mean, if he just has an average week around the greens, that's good. But not a player I have like a hot take or like a must play of. I just want to see where the ownership lands with Hovland. I do think you're right. Like, you know, this if he doesn't improve, I mean, we could just easily see a miscut here. And this is a course too where you usually see a couple people eject here like pretty badly. Like it's a tough setup. Guys get really frustrated around the greens, and Hovland could certainly be a candidate for that. Yeah, definitely a player I kind of, you know, going to be watching throughout the week. So
for the 8K guys, I mentioned Sung Jae. He should be pretty low owned just because he's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Answer and Berger are the other two that just are complete write-offs for most people when they look at this range, mainly because there's a lot of guys that everyone wants to play. Young and Homa, for sure. Davis Riley, I think people will still, it won't be as high as those two, obviously, but they'll still glom onto that. Connors always draws ownership. Neiman should be slightly less, but still somewhat popular. Then you have Keegan and Mito. I guess Seamus Power is the other one, the $8,000 min that I don't think is going to garner too much interest. Between Berger, Answer, and Power, do you have a favorite of these low-owned guys? Or are they low-owned for a reason? That they're just one problem, Jeff. They're not any good.
Yeah, they're terrible. These guys are just horrible. I prefer Berger, absolutely. Again, I'll buy into the course history, the bad course history with Berger. It seems like everything is sort of slightly coming together. Berger is one of those guys who his putter either seems to be like just absolutely cooking, or it's just kind of like, this is not good. Like, it's just holding him back. But like the around the green game seems fine for Berger right now. The irons are just steady as per usual. We know he's not going to get in trouble off the tee. I think this could easily be the year where Berger steps up and like figures this course out. He's definitely coming off the missed cut at the PGA, probably a little embarrassing, but he was fine last week. I mean, like, talk about an under the radar, like T23. I mean, I don't even remember seeing Daniel Berger. So, it wasn't the greatest week, but really all his troubles kind of just have been stemming from the putter lately. Lost a ton of strokes at the PGA. I will definitely probably take one more shot with Berger, even though, again, another player, like, I just want to see him like perform in a major, because like you keep taking like value shots on him at like these 61 numbers, and it gets annoying when you can't pay them off. But Answer for me is the guy I don't mind fading. The around the green game for him, it's just terrible. And I just feel like if he does that at this course, like we're going to get like a 77. So a little bit worried about him right now. I'm not going to necessarily get on him. Niemann is the interesting one. I mean, it's the dude obviously won at Riviera at a really tough golf course.
I love Niemann here. Niemann should be a core play for everyone this week.
Absolutely. And like, I mean, this is kind of where you have to play off where some of these, these like what Mito is obviously going to be eating into Niemann a little bit. So that's nice. I mean, you can certainly take a stance on one of them, on Niemann over Mito if you want. I don't really mind that play. I love Mito, but I think Niemann is by far the more polished player of the two and is better set up for success at this course. So 8,300. Yeah. I don't mind buying into like a little bit of chalk there. Absolutely. And look, you could pair him with Daniel Berger in this range. If you want to go get a little bit contrarian, or if you need two guys. So Berger's the guy I would take a shot with this week, breaking the course history kind of wreckage that he's had here before, and just, coming back, because he was fine last week. If the putter gets going this week and he figures these greens out, I definitely think he can have some success here. So
yeah, I think Power of those three guys is the one. I mean, I like Niemann the best, obviously, but he'll be relatively not high owned, but he'll be somewhere in the middle. I just can't
roster Seamus Power.
Why not? Like, he's been good.
I don't know why.
He's either really good, outperforms his DraftKings number by like a pretty sizable value, or he absolutely sucks. There's really no in between with him.
I just look at Seamus Power and I'm like, this dude was like, I just see Corn Ferry Tour. I don't know why. I literally cannot get over the hump with Seamus Power. I see him put around these guys and I'm just like, why is he there? So obviously he's pretty good. He's very consistent, but I can't do it. I'm not going to roster Billy Horschel either. So there's two guys that I'm crossing off right there.
Well, and Bryson's right there as well. I don't even know if he's going to end up playing, but again, one of those things where, hey, why don't you just bet him at 100-1? If he doesn't play, you get your money back. You probably don't want to risk any DraftKings lineup for an injured golfer at this point anyway. I just don't know what to do with Cam Young. Like, that's the biggest conundrum for me this week. Like, is this going to be one of these situations where he's such an obvious good play, even at this price, that everyone just like, oh, I'll fade Cam Young, and then no one ends up using Cam Young?
It's a very real possibility because of the range he's in. Like, I've already, like, I've been writing up Sanjay all day. So people are obviously going to like start to clue in that like Sanjay played well last week. His around the green game is okay. Obviously you've got Lowry there. Max Homa is a guy who, people are going to talk up a little bit this week too. It's a real possibility that Cam Young his ownership just isn't that high at the end of the week. I just, when you come to Muirfield again, it's just like the greens can eat you up so fast here and the around the greens that I will probably, be fading him again. But I don't know. I might even end up betting him just to hedge, because it just seems so stupid not to have some exposure to this guy at some point. But if you want to play him, I think that you're fine. You should just go overweight on him, because I think that the range he's in, there's enough names there that it's going to eat into his overall ownership and probably not make him like heavy chalk at all. Well, I mean, chalky, but not like, we're not talking crazy or anything.
You worried about Rahm this week?
I mean, I'm worried about everybody, Pat, but
like in general, like, is there something off with Rahm? I know that he won in Mexico, like, and he won with like a C- effort, by the way, and he just did not have it whatsoever at the PGA Championship. And just looking at his past 12 rounds, like if you only look at his past 12 rounds, and it's a very small sample, obviously, it's Rahm and Cantlay and Corey Connors and Daniel Berger. They're like the 4 jabronis above $8,000 based on their most recent stats. Now you just factor those out to past 24 rounds, all of a sudden Rahm looks awesome again. But just the closer you get to now, the worse Rahm has looked. And that's, I don't want to say it scares me, but it does.
we have seen this from Rahm before. Like when he came in and won here, and I think it was 2020, it was kind of the same. He was kind of just mulling about. Everyone's like, well, he's not really hitting high gear. I think we were getting like 20-1 on him that week.
It was above 20. I didn't hit
it was like the last time he was above 20, legitimately.
So he went miscut 33rd, 37th, 27th, first was how Rahm came into that event.
So, but to your point, like he's not sharp. Like he's not obviously as sharp as he was, say, even at the beginning of the year when he was like gaining just a million strokes on approach. And it was just clear, like the around the green game and putter was holding him back. It's just, that still hasn't really clicked outside of that 1 week at like the Mexico Open where he just barely did enough to hang on. So I don't want to say like I'm necessarily worried about him, but I don't really feel the need to play him this week either, which maybe like says that like a lot of people are going to do that and think that way. And then, he'll be like 5% owned. I don't think he'll be 5% owned, but
he could be 9 instead of 14 kind of thing.
Yeah. Rahm is, I don't know. It's really hard to click on Rahm with Rory just sitting there underneath.
See, I disagree. Unless you only are playing first round showdown, like I feel like I don't play Rory all that often, granted. It's funny because Raza and I are sort of like the diametric opposites of that. You as well. Like you always play Rory. And listen, he's a great DraftKings play. He tends to do very well. I don't feel like I've ever really lost money fading Rory, though. I have lost money. I have lost money fading Rahm.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not necessarily worried about Jon Rahm. So let's put it this way. If you like him, like you should just play him because again, like we have seen from him before. Like he can go like a few events where it doesn't look that great on paper. He's still making cuts and then it just clicks together. The one thing I'll say, and like you kind of brought this up, like he did lose strokes on approach at the PGA Championship, and he's still losing strokes around the greens there. That's what kind of worries me, I guess, the most about playing Muirfield Village is okay. The approaches will probably bounce back a bit, but if he can't get the around the green game together, like you just look at like the guys who finish highly here, they all gain over a stroke around the green. And I know it's around the green and it's, there's a little bit of a luck variance, but when you've lost around the green in like 8 of 9 events now, I don't really want to pay 11-1 for you. So I don't know. For me, Rahm is like, I don't really have a hot take or an answer to what's wrong with him necessarily, but I really don't mind waiting just to see like a little bit of sharpness coming for the US Open. And I just think that this week too, I'll just side with Rory. I'll side with Rory again. I think that there's just been more consistency in his game. And I think he's coming in with just a better head of steam.
Lower than 8,000. Si Woo looks really good here. And that terrifies me to no end. I don't know what if you're terrified about playing Si Woo, well, you're hold on. You're gonna say you should play Jason Day, and that's gonna be a bad idea, sir.
It's a great idea, Pat. What are you talking about?
No,
what could go wrong with playing Jason Day? It's not like he's got a bad back or something, or he withdraws, or he loses strokes on approach. What could possibly go wrong with playing Jason Day? What are you talking about?
Okay, so let's frame
he's
it
the
this
former number 1 player in the world. He's fine.
He's great. Let's just take a time machine back 3/4 of a decade, and we'll be top notch with Jason Day. I would prefer Si Woo between Wise, Kirk, Kuchar, Reed, and Mito. Which guys of that 5 do you think that you're going to play? Because I am going to play Mito, and I think I'm going to play Kirk. I think those are going to be my 2.
I'm definitely playing Aaron Wise this week. So
definitely playing Aaron Wise.
Wow. Definitely. I like the upside with Wise. I mean, I think, again, you look at him and the talent potential. What do you need to do at this course? You need to gain like 5-6 strokes on approach. You need to blast it out with your irons, and you need to have a decent week with the putter or just get fire around the greens. I think Aaron Wise is actually pretty underpriced. I mean, he's been gaining a lot of strokes on approach. He's shown that upside. He's inconsistent as hell, and it's really annoying and can get annoying. But like, there's no doubt to me that this is a player who has the potential to win on a course like this. And who do we see win these events? Younger guys break through for their first wins. Bryson did it. Cantlay did it.
Hideki.
I'm not saying necessarily Wise is as good as them, but like the talent level is comparable. I mean, he's really, really good when he gets it going. So I think Wise at 7,500, that's got to be a must roster for me. I will take a shot with Jason Day here.
Ugh.
Probably stupid. I'm getting sucked in by that Wells Fargo where he gains strokes on approach, like a bunch of them. And then he's just looked good around the greens of late, which I think builds confidence. So Day is probably going to be in the player pool. Wise for sure is my favorite player there. Probably going to fade Mito this week. I feel like he's just maybe like, again, we're talking like 4 events in a row here. First time playing, worry a little bit around the greens, but and then I don't mind. I don't mind eating the chalk with Chris Kirk. Again, this is a player who I just kind of feel like is due. So Dale being like my wild card there, but Wise is really the guy that I think that I like the most.
So no Day, no Wise for me. I had more interest in like Noren and Leishman than those guys. I think that do you think that people will go back to Noren after he just boned over everyone at the PGA Championship being the highest owned guy? Or will it be like, no, he's actually a pretty good fit for this course?
No, I think people will kind of avoid him. I might just bet Alex Noren like top 10 or something like that, just because I want to play Wise and I'm not sure. And then I just talked up Day as well. So obviously I'm not going to play like all 3 of them. I mean, I could, but I'd just rather light my lineup on fire than do that. But Noren is interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, Noren is, like a decent fit from the standpoint of like veteran player, good around the greens, and he's been gaining on his strokes. Like I like Noren at the PJ too. I was one of the dummies who, trusted him and just was like, I'll eat the Alex Noren chalk. So there's really no reason to get off him. I mean, he's played well. It's just, there's other options in this range. I mean, I think Chris Kirk is obviously a safer play, but if you don't like my Jason Day call or if you're not down with Siwoo, then I mean, Noren offers the similar kind of upside in my opinion. I think we can make cases for Leishman, Noren, Kim, and even Jason Day. It's just like all of them come with like little, they come with flaws. Like Leishman really hasn't been that consistent. He's got great course history though. Siwoo kind of same thing. Day is Day. And then Noren really has played like probably the most consistent golf of the 4. So maybe that's the guy we should be trusting if we're just looking at like the overall recent trends.
From the lower part here, I don't really have a ton. I like CT Pan. I don't think I'm going to be alone on that. I do really like Lahiri at $7,200. He's been hampered by his putter as of late, but the ball striking has still been really good. He's a new dad, so he's got that baby swag on the go. Has had some pretty decent performances here in the past as well, so I like Lahiri at 72. I think he's a nice compliment at the back end. No one is going to be on him. And then after that, man, just pick and choose. Steele is really the only one that sticks out as, hey, this guy is like an absolute really good play. The numbers will tell me Adam Long and Patrick Rogers are both good plays. I'm not going to fall for that. Trust me, I'm not falling for that move. But Glover is the other one at 65. And EVR. EVR, for whatever reason, like the more I dig into my key metrics this week, in the short term, it's not great, but over like past 24, past 50, past 75, past 100 rounds, this does really seem like an EVR type course.
Yeah, absolutely it is, because he's a guy who can come in and just, gain you 7 strokes on approach when he's feeling it. And he'll like, I think he's a great spike candidate for this week. I like Van Rooyen down there. Steele, obviously, just from the consistency standpoint and like the short-term trends, he was the guy I picked out as well. And I think it makes a ton of sense, but EVR at 66, I think is like the better upside play for tournaments. Maybe not better upside play, but a player you could certainly use and mix into your player pools. And the nice thing is you don't have to go heavy on EVR to go overweight on the field. I looked up Francesco down there at 66 just because I was interested. He's playing well around the greens, which
that's
will
it.
probably
That's all. He's not going to gain 5 strokes around the green every tournament. It's not happening.
No, but he's like I was just gonna say, like, he's kind of like turned into Matt Kuchar, where he just like, you know, gains strokes around the greens and like makes cuts now. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. Like, yeah, I just wanted to point that out. You're right. I'm not like I think EVR and Steele are probably better plays. So yeah, it's kind of weird though. Like for a deeper field, there's not really many players under like 7,500 I really want to play. I mean, CT Pan obviously been really consistent, but like how much more does he really have to give us? Is he going to like go out there? I'd rather play Lahiri too, by the way. I like that call. I know he finished T2 here one year, went absolutely nuts in the final round, if I remember correctly. He shot like a 64, 65. So like some good mojo there. He's been dialed in this year. He's, like you said, new dad, a lot of confidence. It feels like. Still wish he'd taken down the players. That would have been cool to see. But you know, like Ricky's got the course history. I'm
give
sure
me
he'll
a
get
fucking
some...
break, Ricky.
I just said he's got course history. I didn't say I want to play him bad. I just said he's got the course history. I don't think he's ever missed a cut here, has he?
Great. Then play Streelman.
Did you see him with those gloves at the Wells Fargo?
No, I didn't.
He looked like he was going for a snowmobile ride. What are you doing out there? Like, what are you doing? Oh, poor Rick. Is he going to go to the Live Golf Tour? I wonder.
I mean,
maybe one day.
Maybe one day he can find his way overseas, and maybe when they come over stateside, Ricky can join the Live Tour. Once he's
watching the downfall of Ricky Fowler that we've seen over the last 3 years. It's just crazy, man. Like back in 2015, 2016, this guy was on top of the world. I don't know. Strange to see.
The other ones I would look at, it's been few and far between, but Ryan Palmer spikes every now and then. Brandt Snedeker's irons have come back to life all of a sudden. I don't know if this is necessarily the spot for it, but I thought that was interesting. The two from like down here, I mentioned Glover, he's 65. Neesmith is down there as well. Then you have this weird Bo Hoag situation. Do you remember this?
Oh, isn't he?
His dad was like the groundskeeper at this course or something weird like that.
Yeah, like he grew up playing it or something to that effect.
Yeah,
yes.
And he's actually been like pretty decent at this course in his career. And he's the min. He came 13th last year. He was 62nd the year before that. I mean, it's not going to be any great shakes, but he's legitimately $6,000.
I think I'd rather play Luke Donald.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What are you trying to win the fucking Heritage GPP in 2014? With all your Ricky, Day, Luke Donald. This is a great team you got here, Jeff.
I mean, I'm not playing Bo Hoag. I mean, I guess you could, but I mean, like,
will you bet me? But will you bet me DraftKings points Bo Hoag versus Luke Donald?
Yeah, absolutely, I will.
Yes.
Because Bo Hoag's going to miss the cut. He's not even making cuts on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Oh, yeah, and Luke Donald. He's the epitome of cut-making prowess, isn't he?
Luke Donald's like 10th in strokes gained approach.
Yeah, that's great. He legitimately can't. The rest of his game is me at this point.
Veteran savvy. I'll go with veteran savvy over your Bo Hoag course history nonsense. How's that?
Hey, it's not even course history nonsense. It's course knowledge nonsense.
Okay, fair enough. Course pedigree, we'll call it.
Luke Donald
play Lingworth down here too.
Oh yeah, you could play former champ. You play Dirt McGirt as well.
Lingworth cost me so much money here when he beat Justin Rose. Not so much, but a decent chunk.
Feinberg and I were talking about that earlier because I think everyone had Rose that week.
And I had him in a DFS lineup. Like it basically cost me the difference between first and third in like a playoff, the win. So it was brutal. Anyways, I have to ask, is Robert Streb in this field? Yes, he is. There's the play. I just saw his name.
That's actually the play at $6,000. This guy eats up Nicklaus courses. He's great.
I mean, like, again, if you're like, okay, in all seriousness, if you're playing someone for the min, your goal should be like, what is the chances of a top 10 here or a top 20? Not like obviously scraping by to make a cut. I would agree that Robert Streb, because when Robert Streb makes a cut, I mean, you can just see it. Like he's got a couple top tens on his list. That's kind of his MO. Like he misses a bunch of cuts and then he plays okay. And he does have some course history, like you said, at Nicklaus courses. So if you're going down here, like I would probably rather take a shot with like him, or I don't know what Charlie Hoffman's doing these days. Don't play Charlie Hoffman.
Charlie Hoffman's ball striking returned last week. He didn't play well, but he actually gained off the tee and on approach for the first time, and since he got hurt, I think, in Phoenix.
I mean, if you look here, like if you're looking at the min again, like Ryder is maybe another name you could throw in that group, but yeah, I agree. Like I don't hate the Streb call. Again, we're talking about a min price play. You really don't need to go down here, but
well, here's the thing. Maybe you do, because we just talked about all these balanced builds that everyone is going to do. If you want to play the one up, one down, like one of the three guys that we just mentioned is probably going to make the cut between Hoffman, Hogue. Hell, one of the four, let's say, Donald and Streb. One of those four guys is going to make the cut, right? So that leaves you your Rory Morikawa, Rahm Rory lineups with Cam Young, if you wanted to play him as well, rather than playing those sorts of lineups and being like, oh, my third guy in is Matt Kuchar. Like, is the difference between, let's say, Kuchar and Lowry the same difference between, I don't know, Stewart Cink and Bo Hogue? I mean, I think I'd rather shoot for the better upside, wouldn't you?
It's the type of week where, like, obviously this is what we're talking about. When we talk about the stars and scrubs, you can dip down. I was just going to say, like, you don't necessarily need to dip down that low. Like Matthew Neesmith at 6,400. I know we kind of mentioned him, but I don't mind going down there. But you can definitely do that. I mean, if you're making stars and scrubs, like you said, really we're just looking for the guy to get through the cut, and it's a shorter field. So, just the percentage is way better in our chances that one of these guys is going to sneak through. So, yeah, again, if you're playing here, I mean, play for the upside. The chances are better that, a couple of these guys are going to sneak through this week. I also didn't mind the Snedeker call, again, for the simple fact that, like, when we're looking at these players, Snedeker can bail us out in like a couple different ways, right? I mean, you mentioned his irons sort of return back to life. We know what he can do with the putter. So, if you want to, dip down here, I think Snedeker is a guy I would take a look with. Streb is probably the guy I would play at the min. I really don't hate Luke Donald, but I'll put Streb in front of him. And then, play for the absolute upside, the guys who can save you in a couple different ways. Maybe they have a little bit more of experience in some ways. Maybe they play well at Nicklaus courses like Streb. Whatever the case, shoot for that upside, because if they do scrape by, I mean, your lineup's going to be in a fantastic position, just in terms of, originality, I guess.
Well, it's the originality of what happens at the top. It just gives you access to more of these high upside guys without having to do the common balance build. So your three guys at the top of your lineup are going to be so much different than everyone else's. Now, I wouldn't recommend this for a single entry or a 3 max or anything like that. But if you're going to play 20, 50, 100, 150 lineups, this would be the sort of lineup that listen, I'm going to play 50 to 75 lineups this week. I'll probably make 20 with this sort of build and then try out some of the other ones. I'm not going to be all in on this strategy, but I think it's interesting to go through and try to figure that out.
Well, since we're talking about it, like, how popular is Bo Hosler going to be this week?
Is he even in the field?
6,200.
Hosler's only 62?
Yeah, I know.
I didn't even see his name. Well, that should be a very good play. That sounds like a good play to me.
I mean, you can. I mean, Grillo's 6,200 too.
Yeah, I'll take a hard pass on that one, pal.
Okay, I won't sell you on Grillo, but theoretically, you could play like Hosler and Grillo or Hosler and Snedeker, and go like Young and 2 guys over 10K, and still have 7,500 left. So,
here's my issue with Hosler. Every time you get him at a course that's over like 7,000 yards, his approach is just god awful. Like, he's gained on approach 1, 2, 3, 4 times this year. Arnold Palmer, granted, long course, somewhat of a corollary, so I'll give you that one. But the rest of them, Pebble Beach, Colonial, Honda. Like, those aren't the longest courses out there.
I mean, if anyone's going to blow up, it's Bo Hosler, like blow up for people who are going to suddenly be trusting him down there. What is, like, okay, you don't like Grillo. Like, what about Danny Willett down there or Martin Laird? I mean,
Willett is sort of the answer to what you were saying about Snedeker. I think that he's just sort of a better version of like what you would think Brandt Snedeker does right now. Like he's very good around the greens. He's very good on difficult courses. I can make a logical case for that. He hasn't been an abject failure lately. He's good at the Masters, and he was good at the Betfred Danny Willett British Masters. Good enough, at least. He was T16. He had hosting duties, okay? So I think you get very similar things out of those guys. I don't know exactly what I want to do down here or where I really want to attack it. I think Hogue, Neesmith, Streb. Although, I mean, Ryder's going to give you 7 eagles. Whether he makes the cut or not, I don't know. But Sam Ryder.
It's kind of funny, though. This does feel like the range where, like, you can, like, like, making decisions down here is kind of going to be important this week, it feels like. Especially if you want to do that, you know, you want to actually go stars and scrubs. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of agree with you on Hosler. Like, I'm not really trying to push him. I just sort of saw him down there. I don't really want to trust Beau Hosler coming off a good start. He's played a little bit more consistent this year, but I agree. Like, and a tougher course for Beau Hosler maybe isn't like the greatest setup either, at least in my opinion. Like Adam Schenk is down there too. I don't know. Like there is definitely play. I think this just more speaks to the fact, like, I really want to go stars and scrubs this week. And again, like, you don't necessarily have to bypass that range we talked about with like Young and stuff, but this allows you, if you go down that deep, you know, you can fit in like a Rory or a Morikawa with, you know, whoever your favorite play is there, Riley, Young, Homa, whatever.
Yeah, I just built one as we were talking. It's Morikawa, Cam Smith, Shane Lowry, Mito is the top 4, Streb and Brendan Steele. That's not horrible.
It's like you said, I mean, there's these guys at the bottom. I mean, if they scrape by for you, it's going to look fantastic, assuming, you know, your other guys don't screw up. But
yeah, well, you need to get you need to get these guys through, and you need to get the top right. And the only way to get the top right perfectly with these guys is doing it this way, it feels like. Because otherwise, you're going to have the same guys as everyone else, and in sort of the similar combination. So working around it that way, I think, can work out a little bit. Did you put any stock into the Nationwide event that's on the Corn Ferry Tour that they played here before? It's at like OSU. It's like a corollary course of sorts. Svensson won last year with Burgoon and Jägerbombs in second. Cam Young was in 10th. The year before that, Cam Young was in second. Curtis Luck won, who is in the field this week. Scotty Scheffler wins the year before that with Beau Hosler in second place. Streb wins the year before that with Peter Malnati. Your boy Uline. Shocking he's not in this field. Grayson Murray, Justin Thomas, Harris English as an amateur. We got some guys up here who've won this event. Cameron Smith has a second place finish here too at this one. I
definitely didn't look at those results, but I was aware of that event. Like I knew Curtis Luck had some reason for being in this field, and I assume that's it. Yeah, the Streb thing is nice. Let's just rally around Robert Streb this week. I think that's the big takeaway here.
It is. Let's see. What can I bet Robert Streb at this week? 500 to 1.
Top 20. His top 20's got to be like, I mean, plus 1,500.
I was gonna say,
get that?
His top 40 might be like 6 to 1 or something crazy.
That'd be fantastic.
Let's see here. Top finishes. Streb top 40.
Should we even bother looking up what he did last week? Like,
no, yeah, he's been horrible. He's been horrible since Honda. I think. I mean, he was even bad at Honda, but at least he gained like 4 strokes on approach or something like that. Streb is plus 250 to come inside the top 40, plus 450 to come inside the top 30. Now you're talking Pat's language. Ryan
he hasn't
Bray.
been that bad. I like this. I like this call for DFS.
Oh, this is gonna be so horrible when he's like 7 over after 7 holes.
Yep, very real possibility. He's 7 over after 7 holes. But if he scrapes by,
well,
he scrapes by, Pat.
Let's try to play the best plays. Since we've been talking about it, since we've just spent 20 minutes talking about the absolute worst plays in the field, let's try to play the best plays here. Where does it start, do you think? Xander or Spieth, do you think is the first man in?
I mean, I think it's got to be Spieth at this point. I kind of like Xander better, though.
Okay, let's start with Xander. He's $300, $500 more. That's a lot of money, $500.
Okay.
So we'll go with him. Cam Young, I think, has to go in. Mito has to go in.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have $7,600 left. Chris Kirk.
Yeah, I was going to say Kirk. Yeah.
Kirk. Wise.
I mean, I like Wise.
You can go Kirk, Wise, Kucher if you wanted to. Like, we're playing the best plays here. Like, what's like the obvious lineup that people are going to build? That feels like a pretty obvious lineup.
I mean, if you think Wise is obvious enough for people and that's where they'll go, I'm down with it. I think that's a good chance of being like very obvious. So how much do we have left after Kirk?
Nothing. 0. We have Xander, Young, Mito, Kirk, Wise, Kucher. All your money.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's I guess you could say, like, you can make the case, like, what about Reed?
Reed is too expensive by $100.
But if we took Wise out and played like Hoagie?
Nah, but no one's going to use Hoagie. He's not a part of the best play contingent this week. Like, all these guys I'm looking at right now are projected.
There's just no one under Wise that's like, really, you're right, that would fit in. So, okay.
Yeah, so that's the team. Xander, Cam Young, Mito, Kirk, Wise, and Matt Kuchar is the official play the best plays lineup. I should just go enter this in a $100 single entry right now, mainly because I play the best plays every week. Then I don't use any of these guys in another lineup. And I look at my DraftKings on like Sunday mornings, like, oh man, I have one lineup that's doing great. It's that fucking lineup every time.
It's like that's the other thing. How chalky is this lineup going to be?
Well, that's the whole point.
It's going to be.
I think it's going to be incredibly chalky.
Speed. Yeah. Okay.
There's no
Did
speed.
we put Lowry in?
No, Lowry's not in because I went with Cam Young.
Right.
$200?
I feel like maybe we should take Xander out and put like Lowry in or something.
I don't know. I think that Xander's going to be super popular.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's me, though. Use fantasynational.com/mayo to get 20% off and track it as it goes throughout the course of the week. I mean, that's another way that you could potentially go about this. What do you got going on this week?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have some best bets up on Tuesday for DK Nation, filling in for Reed Fowler, who, you know, shout out to him and his wife. Obviously had their first kid, but I have my PJ cheat sheet up too for the Memorial. So give me a follow at the Fantasy Grind if you could. Really appreciate it. But yeah, I'll have some best bets up there once I decide, you know, how much I want to wager on Robert Streb and stuff like that. And I'll probably have some good golfers in there too. I know the one player I'm definitely interested right now, Sanjay, going a little bit under the radar, liking his odds, but probably have some money on Aaron Wise as well. So those are kind of two guys I've decided on so far, but I'll have, a final article up again at the Fantasy Grind if you could.
Let me ask you this. What would Rom have to be for you to bet him this week? I asked Feinberg this question earlier. What would be the odds? Like, oh my God, John, like if you just opened it, it's like Rom has fallen to this number. What does that number need to be for Rom?
1,600, I'd definitely get interested. That might even be like the limit for me.
Really?
Maybe 1,800?
I would say so 15 to 1 wouldn't do it for you?
Be really close.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I could probably, oh man. Who's at 15 to 1 right now? Like Cantlay?
No, like it Rom's 10, Rory's 11, Cantlay's 18. On DraftKings, it's flipped a little bit because Cantlay's the second favorite at 10 to 1, but everywhere else he's 18 to 1.
Okay. I think that, man, how is Xander 16? That's just ridiculous. Yeah, I think 16 up there, 16, like around the Morikawa shot, like Schauffele.
Yeah, and even
you'd have to bet him at that. Like you'd have to. I mean,
yeah, like I'm seeing Morikawa at 25 at some spots. Like I'm betting that 100% of the time you give me Morikawa at 25%, especially at this course. Yeah, yes, sign me up.
I may be on that train with you. I know looking at the top, no way I'm betting Xander at those numbers. I mean, I like him, but like just you can't. The top end for Xander just isn't quite. It's just not as good as Morikawa. So. It's just a long-term thing. You just keep betting Morikawa when his number is bigger like that, and eventually you're going to profit. So I think the guy I need to make a decision on this week is Spieth. Actually was a little surprised his number was as big as it was. And I mean, his performance here hasn't been like super consistent, but everything's working for him right now. I don't know. This feels like either the week he misses the cut or he like wins again. So kind of got to make a decision there.
Yeah, I would say hard pass on Spieth this week. I don't like this course for him, and that's not saying that he can't win. I mean, he's probably going to go out and win now, but this is not where I would be going after him. I can bet Morikawa at the same number.
If you can get Morikawa at the same number, I mean that's fine. Like again, you could. I'm just thinking like, do I want to bet two guys from that range too? Hovland's there.
Smith.
Again, yeah.
You can have Smith at 22 or 25 if you want it.
Smith at 22 or 20 with the same as Spieth. Yeah. I mean, I'd be fine. Like, I don't really, the other thing is, like, I don't bet Jordan Spieth that often. So I don't really feel that bad if I leave him off. But like a Smith Morikawa combo to start at like 25, if you get that, that feels like a pretty good start to the week. I mean, Smith coming off all those gained approaches, week of rest. Again, this is Spieth's 4th week in a row. Yeah, I kind of like just talking about it. I'd probably leaning Morikawa at the very least, and maybe even Smith over Spieth.
I mean, I'm just shocked you didn't bet Luke Donald. So Jason Day, Luke Donald, there you go.
Bet him last week, top 40. He got like an 8-way tie. So that was awesome.
So you like lost money on that bet. You bet,
I think
you bet $20 to get like $2 back.
I think I got like $22 back or something. So
fantastic. A profit of $2 on Luke Donald. That's the most anyone has won in Luke Donald in 7 years.
You're gonna be sad when he beats Bo Hoag this week.
Not a chance. 0%
Plus
chance
6.
of that. Plus 6 to plus 11 or something.
That's right.
Play in the Listeners League. Oh, my voice, it's going on me again. You should play in that too, Jeff, by the way. But all the people out there listening and watching should do that as well. Find the link down in the description. 3 max. Entry, $15 to play. No rake. 2,500 spots. We juice it. We juice it again next week at the Canadian Open. And then, boom, max money for the U.S. Open. So we should do that. All final plays will be in the newsletter for you to join down in the description. And I'll be live with Tyler Tambolini, Toe Taking Tambo from RunPureSports.com. Noon Eastern, Wednesday, live on Mayo Media Network. You got to be subscribed in order to ask your question. So go do that now. Set your reminder and tune in then. In between then and now, I'm going to be like sleeping or something like that. So I'll see you next time.
Fan Mayo Experience! Experience!